General Hospital will reveal exciting movie moments of the week from April 21st to 25th, 2025. First, Natalia comes up with a new plan to sabotage Sunny for abandoning her. At the deception office, dim light filtered through sheer curtains, casting a tense and stifling atmosphere across the room. The glossy leather chairs reflected the soft light, but nothing could temper the chill that seemed to settle over every surface. Brooke Lynn leaned slightly against a polished oak desk, her expression quiet but calculated. She didn't say a word, only nodded subtly to affirm the decision that had already been made. Beside her, Lucy wore her trademark smile, one that usually inspired reassurance, yet today, it resembled the cold precision of a verdict being passed. Maxie entered with resolute composure. She carried a stack of documents in one hand, but the focal point was the single sheet on top, carefully clipped, an official termination letter. The air in the room seemed to freeze as Maxie laid it before Natalia. Every movement Maxie made was slow and deliberate, as though she'd spent days contemplating this moment. Natalia, standing in the center of the room, dressed in a sleek black velvet coat and a fitted dress that emphasized her striking presence, was met with the gaze of the three women like a defendant before a silent jury. She didn't immediately glance at the letter. Instead, she looked directly at Maxie, then at Brooke Lynn and Lucy. In her eyes, there were no tears, only shock and simmering fury. Maxie's voice rang out, firm, emotionless, declaring that Natalia's contract was terminated, effective immediately. No opportunity for rebuttal. No apologies. No space for negotiation. Only a swift and ruthless removal. Behind that action lay a deeper motive, the growing concern over Natalia's link to Jens, the controversial man with a shadowy professional history and, more significantly, her former husband. For weeks, whispers of Jens's covert influence on Deception's internal operations had been spreading. Financial reports were inexplicably delayed, vendor contracts began to falter, and internal audits revealed anomalies in the supply chain, all pointing to a common denominator, Natalia. Although she had no official association with Jens in the company's records, their past relationship made everyone uneasy. Firing Natalia wasn't just about cleansing the ranks, it was a strategic move to sever any conduit through which Jens might influence or manipulate the company. But such a move came at a steep price. Natalia had been involved in key projects, including an essential zinc procurement deal that underpinned the company's next major product launch. Cutting her out also meant risking control over those sensitive operations. Everything suddenly felt precarious, like a carefully arranged house of cards teetering under invisible pressure. In the midst of the chaos, Tracy made a timely appearance with a cryptic proposal. No one knew her true allegiance, whether she was acting in defense of the company or in silent collaboration with Sidwell. Tracy never appeared without having the upper hand, and she now claimed to have a solution to the looming material shortage crisis. But her offer posed a dangerous question: was this a lifeline, or a veiled trap set on Sidwell's behalf? Brooke Lynn didn't fully trust Tracy, yet she understood that Deception couldn't afford to wait. While closed-door meetings unfolded, Lucy silently studied everyone's expressions, as if searching for signs of betrayal. Maxie, meanwhile, revealed no uncertainty. She knew that Natalia's removal was merely the first step in a series of aggressive actions required to preserve the company's integrity and future. As for Natalia, she didn't return home after leaving the office. Instead, she drove to a secluded building on the outskirts of town, where Jens was already waiting. Her expression was no longer one of outrage, but calm and chillingly poised. Being ousted from Deception wasn't an end, it was the beginning of something far more calculated. This was a move she had long prepared for, merely awaiting the right moment. If Deception thought they had neutralized the threat, they were wrong. Natalia was no longer a woman seeking approval, she was now the architect of her own counterattack. Armed with insider knowledge, weaknesses in the infrastructure, unspoken alliances, and guarded secrets, she was preparing to strike. A storm was brewing beneath the surface, and this time, Natalia was the one pulling the strings. Second, Molly discovers that it was Christina who caused Rick's dangerous accident. Under the pale white lights of the hospital, where silence was broken only by the steady beeping of heart monitors and the distant echo of footsteps along endless corridors, Molly sat alone in the staff area. An access-restricted space reserved for doctors and authorized personnel. In front of her lay a stack of documents, a mix of medical records, internal reports, and files from law enforcement agencies that she was assigned to review. Her eyes remained fixed on the lines of text, but her expression gradually shifted, from focused to stunned, until suddenly, she gasped aloud, her voice trembling, "Oh my God!" The exclamation was not a fleeting reaction, but the result of a shocking discovery she could hardly believe. Though Molly was known for her analytical mind, disciplined demeanor, and cautious decision-making, what she had just found appeared to exceed anything she had mentally prepared for. Tucked deep at the bottom of an old, dusty stack of papers was a file, its faded blue ink scribbles revealing a chilling detail connected to Rick, her father, who was still recovering in his hospital bed. It wasn't just a routine medical document. It contained an unofficial internal report suggesting that Rick's car's brake system had been deliberately tampered with. And most disturbing of all, Christina's name appeared in it. Not as a confirmed suspect, but in connection with some kind of agreement that seemed designed to shield her from legal accountability. Somehow, a quiet arrangement had been made, allowing Christina to be protected from blame, an agreement forged in the shadows, one that Molly had never been told about. Torn between her loyalty to her family and her duty to truth, an emotional storm began brewing within her. At the same time, Molly couldn't ignore what was happening to Cody, her new friend, someone she had started to trust and even spend more time with. In recent days, Cody had shown signs of exhaustion, visible stress, and a subtle struggle with something he refused to admit. And now, just a few rooms away lay Rick, teetering on the edge of consciousness. And Cody appeared to be on the verge of becoming the next patient. The growing worry took a darker turn when Molly discovered a small, separate file tagged with Cody's name, hidden among Rick's documents. The coincidences were too precise to dismiss. Did Cody know more than he was letting on? Or was he a yet unidentified link in a larger scheme cloaked in silence? This week, Molly found herself unable to remain a bystander. She had to confront unwelcome truths about her father, unsettling questions about her sister, and growing doubts about Cody, a tangled web of dark secrets and hidden threats woven through every page she read. She realized her choices now extended beyond personal preference, they were a matter of duty. If she remained silent, the truth would stay buried. But if she spoke out, it might shatter the fragile bonds of a family already riddled with cracks. Amid the sea of paperwork and revelations slowly surfacing, Molly understood that time was running out. The decisions she was about to make could shape not just her own future, but that of Rick, Christina, and Cody. In the eye of a storm where secrets, loyalty, and morality collided, Molly was stepping into a battle from which she could not retreat, one where the cost of truth might be everything she had ever held dear. Third, Sunny in danger of being injected with poison after heart surgery in L.A. At a luxurious yet sterile hospital in Los Angeles, Sunny suddenly awoke from his sedated state, the dim ceiling lights casting soft shadows through sheer curtains, painting dreamlike shapes that blurred the line between nightmare and reality. His entire body felt heavy, not just from lingering sedatives in his system but from the sense of imminent danger creeping into every corner of the room. The atmosphere was unnaturally quiet, the scent of antiseptic hanging thick in the air, far stronger than usual. And then Sunny saw her. His eyes, half-lidded with disorientation, landed on a figure that quickly came into horrifying clarity, a woman with a composed, icy demeanor, her hair neatly tied back, dressed in a nurse's uniform but holding a small gun in one hand and a large syringe filled with an unknown substance in the other. It was Colette, Jack Brennan's seemingly harmless assistant. But now, her true face was revealed. Gone was the pretense of professionalism, in its place stood the precision and cold focus of a trained assailant. She wasn't here to help, she was here to finish a job. Colette stood only steps from Sunny's bed, her weapon steady, her eyes void of emotion. Sunny, still weak, could feel the tension winding around him like a noose. Every muscle ached, each breath was effortful, yet he knew he had only seconds to act. If he didn't move now, this might be his final moment. But would anyone come? Meanwhile, at a nearby hotel, Carly stood by a high-rise window, her eyes fixed on her phone. There was a gnawing anxiety growing inside her, a quiet intuition honed over years of surviving danger. Though many had warned her about Brennan, that his charm and influence concealed something darker, she hadn't truly believed them. But this trip, and her sudden decision to accompany Sunny, felt more like instinct than choice. And perhaps it was that instinct that would save him. Back at the hospital, Colette stepped closer. Sunny's eyes, clouded with fatigue, flickered with one final spark of defiance. In a split second, the door burst open. The sharp echo of heels against the tile floor cracked through the silence like thunder. Carly entered, her expression a mix of terror and fury, and with a single glance, she understood exactly what was happening. There was no hesitation. Her instinct to protect Sunny surged through her like a tidal wave. The next moments unfolded in chaos. Distracted by Carly's sudden entrance, Colette faltered. Sunny seized the chance to roll off the bed, knocking the syringe from her hand. It shattered on the floor. Without pause, Carly grabbed the floor stand and struck Colette, sending her stumbling. Within seconds, hospital security, alerted by Carly earlier, rushed in and subdued Colette as she staggered. The immediate danger had passed, but its consequences lingered. Carly, breathless and shaken, looked down at Sunny, now safe, and her eyes welled with pain. Not just from nearly losing him, but from the truth that had just been laid bare. Brennan either had no control over Colette, or worse, he never intended to. A sense of betrayal swept through Carly like a poison. She began to question every sweet word, every sincere gaze Brennan had ever given her. This event didn't just destabilize a fledgling relationship, it awakened something she thought she'd buried, a deep, unshakable connection to Sunny. In that life-or-death moment, it wasn't Brennan she rushed to save, it was Sunny. And that might just be the most profound truth Carly had never dared to admit. Finally, the unfortunate consequences of Willow transferring custody of the children to Drew. Amid the quiet, mounting pressure weighing on her mind, Willow once again demonstrated the strength that resided within someone who, at first glance, seemed so delicate. In a quiet hallway, her steps were soft yet determined as she stopped in front of an office door, perhaps somewhere inside the Baden-Baden clinic, where she had taken refuge to recover and, at the same time, prepare for one of the most important decisions of her life. In her hand was a neat folder, each page inside carefully arranged, as though every document carried the weight of an irreversible choice. Willow knew she had no time left to hesitate. A whirlwind of emotions collided within her, grief, fear, maternal instinct, and a love for Michael that had never truly faded. I still need to face one more person. My husband, she had told someone earlier, her voice steady, not trembling. It wasn't a confession, it was a vow to herself that she wouldn't leave quietly, that she would not leave behind unanswered questions for the people she loved most. In the office, she sat across from a woman, perhaps a doctor, a lawyer, or some kind of legal advisor, and began a conversation that marked the beginning of a significant transition. Willow still held medical power of attorney for Michael, which meant that in case of an emergency, she was the one authorized to make healthcare decisions on his behalf. But now, as the line between life and death began to blur for her, Willow felt an overwhelming need to set things right, not just for Michael, but especially for their children, Wiley and Amelia. Not long ago, Willow had finalized legal paperwork appointing Drew Kane as guardian over herself and Michael's children in the event of her sudden passing. It wasn't a decision she made lightly. Drew was not a replacement for Michael in terms of love, but he was someone she trusted completely, someone she felt safe and trusting with the most precious parts of her life. Drew had built meaningful bonds with Michael and the children, and he had stood by Willow during the loneliest moments of her recent journey. Willow knew the conversation with Michael ahead would be anything but easy. She was preparing to tell the man she had once chosen as her life partner that, should she suddenly pass away, it would not be him, but Drew, who would be legally entrusted with caring for Wiley and Amelia. This wasn't betrayal. It was the purest expression of love and courage, of a mother facing her own mortality and doing everything she could to ensure that her children wouldn't fall into chaos in the event of her absence. She didn't want Michael to feel shut out. Willow understood that Michael loved their children, that he would fight tooth and nail to stay in their lives. But the truth was that, over the past months, a quiet distance had formed between them, not from a lack of love, but from the emotional toll, the diverging ways they each processed pain, and the growing differences in how they envisioned the future. Somehow, Drew had become the steady center of their fractured orbit, not as a replacement, but as someone who held the fragile pieces together. Willow wasn't sure how much time she had left. She didn't know what awaited her beyond this chapter. But she knew that while she could still make choices, she needed to be the one to decide what would happen to her children, not chance, not legal disputes, not uncertainty. And if the day came when Michael had to step into the role of a single father, at least he wouldn't have to do it alone. Drew would be there, steady, reliable, and ready to protect Wiley and Amelia from the stormy world around them. In that moment, Willow felt a subtle weight lift from her heart. Even though the conversation ahead would likely be filled with tears, she knew she was doing the right thing. Not to divide, but to preserve. Not to hurt, but to protect. And sometimes, it's in the moments when we're forced to make the hardest decisions that we discover the truest sense of peace.